It also strikes me as somewhat misogynist to claim that a woman cannot write a serious book about psychedelics. Hello, my friends of the Psychedelic Renaissance. It's Tom Hatsis, your psychedelic historian, and did Michael Pollan plagiarize his best-selling book, How to Change Your Mind? Back in 2021, an article written by Erica Rex appeared in Medium magazine. Rex claimed that author Michael Pollan stole a book idea she had and used it to write his best-selling work, How to Change Your Mind. I'll link the article below. The allegations Rex makes against Pollan are quite scandalous, and yet, there hasn't been much traction to this story at all. Is that because Rex doesn't make her case? Or is it that Michael Pollan is so connected and influential that he can sort of skirt past such a scandal? Those are the questions with which we shall wrestle. But first, if you're into this kind of content, please give this video a like and a share, subscribe to the channel, and find me on Instagram. The cliff notes of the story, as laid out in Rex's article, are as follows. First, Rex took part in a psilocybin study done through Johns Hopkins University to treat her cancer-related depression. The first such study of its kind. She eventually wrote an article about her experiences in Scientific American magazine. It was there that the redoubtable Michael, which is Rex's name for Michael Pollan that she painfully overuses, anyway, it was there that Michael Pollan read her article and decided to use it as fodder to produce How to Change Your Mind. Since then, Rex has found it very difficult to land a deal for her book, and as someone who's been there myself, I totally feel you. The first thing to say about Rex's allegations is that it wouldn't be the first time that Michael Pollan has been accused of stealing someone else's work. Apparently, he also stole the idea for his book In Defense of Food from an Australian nutritionist. Although, I should say the only place I've read about this or been able to find anything about this is in Rex's article. Now, I don't know much about the situation. Rex doesn't tell us who the Australian nutritionist is, really doesn't give us any threads to follow at all. As such, I will comment no further. The issue, as I see it, is that Rex never really demonstrates to any satisfaction that Michael Pollan stole her idea. She never actually connects the dots. And in fact, some of the dots she tries to connect only lead to more questions. For example, the way she relays the story of how Dr. David Nutt approached her at the 2017 MAPS conference in Oakland, California, which is where Erica first learns that Pollan allegedly stole her book. Rex remembers the encounter this way. "Congratulations about the book, Erica. Great news," he, meaning Dr. David Nutt, said, wrapping me in a bear hug. "What book, David?" I said. "I haven't sold the book. I haven't even finished writing the proposal yet." "Random House. I just spoke with Michael. He just came over and introduced himself. He said he was working with you. Book's due out next year." "That's great." "Michael who?" Michael Pollan," said David. "Are you kidding me? I must have gone some shade of yellow or gray. I haven't submitted the proposal." "Are you okay?" said David. "I need to sit down," I said. We made our way to a sofa in the lobby. We sat down. "Oh my God," he repeated. I said, "You're working with Erica," and he said, "Yes." He looked at me. I'd never met the redoubtable Michael. I didn't know the redoubtable Michael. I couldn't have cared less about the redoubtable Michael. I told you she overuses that phrase. David and I sat and talked for the better part of an hour. He expressed outrage on my behalf. He said he would get in touch with his agent and see if she could help me. He said it was a travesty. He said, "This is terrible. Taking advantage of someone else's work who isn't yet famous because he can get away with it." He remarked how often he'd seen it happen in academia, too. Now, there's a slight hiccup with that story. I was thrown off by this sentence here. Taking advantage of someone else's work who isn't yet famous because he can get away with it. Someone else's work who isn't yet famous. Do people actually talk like that? I gotta say, after reading a few of Rex's articles, that sounds way more like something that she would write about herself than it does like anything someone else would say to her. Of course, I couldn't be certain, so I decided to email Dr. Nutt myself and ask him how this encounter actually went down. Dr. Nutt wrote back to me. He has zero memory of this meeting ever taking place. That could be, as he stated to me, that he meets a lot of people, and this particular encounter might have just gotten lost in the shuffle. And I have no doubt that Dr. Nutt meets a lot of people. But meeting a lot of people and consoling a friend and colleague who was on the verge of tears because a famous food writer just stole her work, you'd think that would stand out in someone's memory. And remember, He was the one who inadvertently broke the news to her about this supposed allegation. You'd think that would stand out in his memory too. I mean, it seems significant, right? I go to a lot of conferences, I shake a lot of hands, I meet a lot of people, some people I remember, some people I forget. However, I was at the same MAPS conference in Oakland as Rex and Dr. Nutt, and I met a lot of people, I shook a lot of hands. Some of those people I remember, some of them I don't. I do, however, remember meeting Ralph Metzner, because it was significant. Meeting people and having a significant moment with a specific person, I mean, to me, those are just two very different things. Without this testimony from Dr. Nutt, there's really not much to go on. I mean, Rex does not offer anything concrete. Now, what she could do, or what I would do if I were in her position, is I would show examples from my manuscript or my article and how they appear in Michael Pollan's How to Change Your Mind. My understanding is that her book had to do with taking psilocybin through Johns Hopkins to treat cancer-related depression, which is not what How to Change Your Mind is about at all. Perhaps Pollan really did steal her book. He could have read her Scientific American magazine article and said to himself, "Self, this would make a good book idea." Again, totally possible. But it's also true that that can happen to anyone at any time over anything, and probably occurs way more often than we think. Had Rex made Pollan aware of her plans to write this book? I mean, if so, she doesn't demonstrate that in her article, and in fact even says that she didn't know him or care about him. Another thing that would be helpful would be if Rex established truths beyond abstractions. While it is certainly possible that Rex is a victim of Michael Pollan, there is also a certain victim identity politic that runs throughout Rex's writings. In fact, Rex establishes her victim cred right from the outset of her article, writing, "I wasn't the first, I was just the most harmed." I mean, maybe that's true. It could be that she was the most harmed, but how could anybody possibly even know that? Like, how do we quantify the hurt she felt with the hurt that the Australian nutritionist no doubt felt? She further expands the victim identity narrative by writing, "I have no doubt Pollan's next book will disinfect the field from anything serious. Men own this topic now because it's cool. Women are not going to be central. Have you seen a serious book by a woman about psychedelics? Not on your life. Just have a look at Goop's redoubtable," oh my god, again with the redoubtable, list. She then offers a link for us to follow, which shows us 10 books, 8 of which were written by men, 2 of which were written by women. I guess she's just so angry about the lack of female writers in psychedelia, so much so that she overlooked female writers in psychedelia. Yeah, that makes sense. What Rex doesn't say, or maybe even realize, is that 6 of the books on that list written by men are over 30 years old. That aside, they are some of the classics in the field, notably The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley, LSD, My Problem Child by Albert Hoffman, and Food of the Gods by Terence McKenna. While 2 of the more recent books on the list, Consciousness Medicine by Christina Hunter and A Really Good Day by Ayelet Waldman, were published fairly recently. It also strikes me as somewhat misogynist to claim that a woman cannot write a serious book about psychedelics. Moving through Rex's article, we find other sentences like these. "Even though my writing was the basis of the famous food writer's newfound career path, I have to date been unable to place my book with a publisher. I'm not a man who has gone out and used a bunch of drugs illegally and is now bragging about it." Beginning with Rex's inability to find a publisher. That is simply not how that works at all. I've written 5 books in psychedelia, 4 of which have been through a publisher, so I've been through the process that Rex is talking about. When writing a book proposal, you are literally, you are literally required to indicate which books are on the market that have already sold well. Bestsellers should be at the top of that list. Publishers often jump at the chance to give book deals to those kinds of manuscripts that are in a genre or a field that is already proven successful. And it ain't just book publishing. My age is about to show here, but some of you might recall in the late 90s, there was a certain attractive blonde girl that came out and took the pop music world by storm, named Britney Spears. Well, what happened after that? Did all of the record companies say, well, shit, we have Britney Spears, I guess let's pack up our bags and leave? No. Then we had Christina Aguilera, Mandy Moore, and that chick, I forget her name, but her sister got caught lip-syncing on SNL. And I just looked it up. Her name is Jessica Simpson. Okay, back into it. Rex claims to have been rejected by publishers 18 times. But the only rejection letter snippet that we get comes from Penguin Random House, which is who published How to Change Your Mind. It reads, "Thank you so much for sending me Erica Rex's proposal. This is a fascinating emerging area of study, and I know there's growing interest in this topic. But one of the big US books on this topic, How to Change Your Mind, was published by a sister imprint here at Penguin, Penguin Press, and I think it would be difficult for our same sales force to sell another book about this after that one. I'm sorry I can't take the next steps here, but I appreciate the submission. Thank you." Now in this case, I can see it making sense that a publisher like Random House wouldn't take on another book like How to Change Your Mind. Fair enough. I'm referring here to the other 17 publishers who rejected the book. They would have very little reason to ignore a book that was well written on a topic that a major publisher calls a fascinating emerging area of study. Rex's reason for not being able to get her book published cannot possibly be based on the fact that the publishing world already has How to Change Your Mind. That's simply not how the entertainment industry, whether we're talking about books, pop music, movies, or video games, works. Entertainment companies spend millions of dollars having professional data analysts pore over these trends so that they can repackage a proven winner as something new. And late 90s pop music and Britney Spears aside, we can all think of many examples of this practice. As for her second claim, that since she's not a man, she's not allowed to take drugs illegally and write a book about it. I find this really interesting considering two recent books, I Feel Love by journalist Rachel Newer, and the already mentioned A Really Good Day by Ayelet Waldman. In I Feel Love, Rachel Newer takes MDMA as part of a staycation during the COVID lockdowns, meaning she took drugs illegally and then wrote a book about it. Like Michael Pollan. Now, in fairness to Rex, her article does predate I Feel Love. However, the same can't be said about Waldman's A Really Good Day, which was published both before Rex's article and before How to Change Your Mind. Therein, the author microdoses LSD illegally and then writes a book about it. So if taking drugs illegally and writing books about them is a symptom of white men, well, someone forgot to tell these women. Besides that, while it is totally possible that Michael Pollan stole Rex's article to write How to Change Your Mind, I'd like to see a little more evidence for that claim. Pollan's alleged past actions of ripping off an Australian nutritionist to write in defense of food, I mean, if that happened, sure, we can take pause and reflect on what that means and what should happen to Michael Pollan. And even if he did steal the idea for In Defense of Food, that does not automatically mean that he stole the idea for How to Change Your Mind. Rex's only evidence for the claim revolves around 3 conversations she had at the Oakland conference. One of which, the longest and most significant, that with Dr. David Nutt, does not seem to have happened as Rex remembers it. The other 2, one with Dr. Anthony Bossi and the other with the redoubtable Michael himself, don't get us any closer to knowing what really happened. Well, my friends, that's all I have for you this time, and I'd love to thank you for stopping by. If you found value in this content, please give this video a like and a share, subscribe to the channel, and let's meet up on Instagram. And until we meet again, I'm Tom Hatsis, your psychedelic historian, reminding you that you free your mind by using your brain. Peace.